Hello and welcome to No Country for Old Pens. It is a NHL21 franchise that I'm doing. The general premise is to do a kind of partial retool of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I originally started playing around with this back in NHL 20, never got around to doing much with it, but now that in here in 21 things are happening in real life with the Pens, with Rutherford stepping aside, Malkin kind of starting slow, Letang being injured, it seemed like a good time to break this one off the shelf. Basically, the premise is keep Crosby because he's kind of the cornerstone of the franchise, and there'd be rioting in the streets if the Pens actually traded him. But then try to get younger and retool the core around him to try to stay competitive and kind of freshen up the team a little bit. So I'm going to be working off of the January 20th rosters, um, and I don't do any roster editing at this point. In future franchises, I might, but it's something I just haven't gotten around to yet. I mean, maybe I will in the future. I do like the idea of adding some of the guys that aren't necessarily in the game, but I'm just not there yet. So basically, the two main goals are going to be get good deals for Malkin and Letang. And then there's a couple other kind of get started deals I want to do to kind of put my own little stamp on the roster and clean things up a little bit. Now, the first deal, Malkin, I was actually inspired by real life events. Um, Basically, with Pierre-Luc Dubois wanting out of Columbus and Laine wanting out of Winnipeg and eventually getting traded for each other in real life, I actually decided to kind of jump in on that in this kind of fictional world. And I wanted to try to, as much as I don't want to trade within the conference like trade into a rival and come around a meeting in the playoffs, I actually thought Malkin for Dubois might actually make the core of a good deal. Um, and I need to add some salary to make that work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add David Savard um, to take on some additional salary. Actually, in fact, that package comes out pretty much equal on salary. And Savard would also be a replacement for Letang when Letang goes. Full disclosure, I've actually been playing around with these a little bit because I just didn't want you to necessarily sit through 2 hours of failure. So I've done some dry runs where I kind of have a sense for what deals I could get. Um, just, letting you know. So let's try this offer. And Columbus accepts. So Savard and Dubois. Dubois is going to slot right in as my number two center. Savard will be on the defense. When Letang gets traded, he might move up the roster a little bit. Now, continuing the real life theme, I did try to play around with getting a Letang for Laine deal, but it just never came together. I just never got close enough. I mean, I was playing a Letang and throwing in a few other things, but it never quite got to the point where it even seemed like the CPU was close to saying yes. So I eventually abandoned that. So I went looking for more deals that would make sense. I wanted to send him out of the conference so I wouldn't play him too much. Edmonton was a possibility. Dallas was a possibility. I ended up settling on Calgary because they are kind of in a winning mindset now. Actually, here, let's get Letang in the package first. So they would be interested in adding someone like Letang. And I wanted to go with more of a retool than just to sell him off for prospects. So what I was looking at was Rasmus Andersson because he's 23. He's not quite the offensive defenseman that Letang is. He's more of a two-way guy, but he'd be a good start for a package. And then load in some pieces around that to make a deal happen. And I've always kind of liked Dylan Dubé. I mean, he's young, he's cheap. He'd be a guy to grab, so I'm going to put him in the deal. Now, I do need to throw some salary in here, and I had two ideas here. Number one would be there's Sam Bennett at about 2.45, and the other would be Andrew Mangiapane at 2.33. They're both 24 years old. They're both about the same overall. I mean, according to this, Bennett's got a little more upside in top 6 versus bottom 6 for Mangiapane, but then again, Mangiapane is not fully scouted. I kind of like Mangiapane a little better, just, I don't know, the flair of the name rolls off the tongue. He's one of these guys that, like, I shouldn't be drawing in things from outside, but he's always simmed well against me in the past. It seems like whenever in some of my other franchises, he's always, like, doing well in other franchises. So I'm going to go with Mangiapane, just kind of on a gut instinct that's the right guy to go with. So put that in the blender. So Anderson, Dubé, and Mangiapane for Letang, and they take that deal. So those are the two big deals. Take a quick look at our lines. That leaves us with Guentzel, Crosby, and Zucker. See, and now here's the other piece of the package that I kind of wanted to do, definitely, is Crosby and Guentzel feel like they need a big guy on right wing. It used to be Patrick Hornquist, but they traded him because he was getting old and expensive. But the idea still seems like the right idea. It seems like you want like a big power forward on that right wing. So what I'm going to look at, in my sort of perfect world, I thought about Anthony Mantha from Detroit, but with Detroit kind of being in a rebuild and him being one of their solid pieces, I didn't see them trading like Malkin for Mantha. That wouldn't have made any sense for them. And even when I did kind of put Mantha in the trade finder and play around them, the things they were asking, the packages they were asking for Mantha were like multiple high draft picks, and I couldn't justify. On the other hand, I did find an idea that might be a little more affordable because Vegas has Alex Tuck, who, among other things, he's not quite as expensive, not held as in high regard. He's not as good, also, but he is also only 24, so he's decent. He's got some room to grow still. So, all right, Savard and Dubé. So I could just get him for the spare pieces from the other deals. Anderson and Ricola. Anderson's kind of slotted to be my replacement for Letang. Marino and Bluger. Marino's got some upside to him. Matheson and Bluger. That's tempting, actually. I've never really... except Matheson's a left defenseman, so... Dumoulin and Blue. They really want my defenseman. Now, one deal that I've seen in other iterations of this in my practice runs, and I'm going to put it in there and see what happens, was... Oops. Brian Rust and Cody Ceci. Because here's the thing, getting Anderson and Savard are both right defense, so that makes Ceci basically spare part. Rust, I just personally never liked him all that much. It just seems like one of these guys shows good stats, but a lot of it's just by virtue of playing with Crosby. I mean, it seems like, and like getting 1 year his stats were kind of propped up by power play goals, and his 5-on-5 was nothing special. And he's kind of a small guy, so I'm not a huge Brian Rust fan. So I'm feeling like Rust and CC for Tuck fits my plans pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and propose that, and they accept that. Nice. Oh no, Matheson lost some. We're dealing with some morale issues at the start, but whatever. We'll get around to fixing that eventually. So let's take a look at our lines right now. Okay, so we want Tuck on the number 1 line. I'm going to put Zucker back on line 2. So, I like this top 6. Guentzel, Crosby, Tuck, Zucker, Dubois, and Kapanen. I kind of like that as my top 6. Now, the bottom 6, I'm gonna have to tweak that a little bit. And there is one other guy I wanted to go after just because I generally like the guy. So, and that is Josh Ho-Sang of the Islanders. I don't know why I like him. I guess there's something, as a Pens fan, you wouldn't think this, but I actually kind of think I kind of respect the cockiness that he wore 66 when he first came up. And he's young, he's got some room to grow, so let me see what they would want for Ho-Sang. Bluger in a 7th. That's in a 7th next year. It's not even this year's 7th. That, to me, that's fine. I mean, Bluger is nothing special. He's a depth body. Ho-Sang probably also a depth. This deal doesn't hurt me at all, and it maybe Ho-Sang's got a little bit of upside no one's tapped into. So I'm gonna go ahead and accept this trade. All right. So now let's go take a look at these lines again. Who wants to put Ho-Sang on the number 1 line? Yeah, I'm not that confident in the kid. So, alright. So, Gensel, Crosby, Tuck. Zucker, Dubois, and Kapanen. Who's my scratched forwards? I just want to double check that really. Okay, Sevier and Rodriguez are scratches at the moment. No Mangiapane. I want to see if I can bring him up. Put Tanev and Jankowski together just because they were like, was it college roommates? I think they're old friends of some sort in real life. So I just, that's kind of cool, and I'll kind of keep them together in real life. So let me play around with Mangiapane on McCann's wing. And Ho-Sang. Okay, so he's a playmaker, a two-way forward, and a sniper. And then, I mean, the only other question would be whether Dubé would be better. Well, this is something we can play around with in next episode when we actually start getting into preseason and see how these guys play. But I think that is basically what I want to do for now to get ready. The only other real sort of question here is, do I want to look at trading someone at the bottom end? Now they got a little bit of depth guys. Some of these guys like Zach Aston Reese or Evan Rodriguez don't really get me that much anymore. So do I want to see if I could put something together for them really quick? So I'll just throw that out there and see what happens. I tend to think not. They're pretty, they're pretty low on the depth chart. But we'll just see what. Okay, a 4 and a 7 for Rodriguez. It's not terrible, but it's also not. It's nothing that I couldn't pick up later in the offseason. Zach Aston Reese, let's do a similar thing for him. A 6th, oof, yeah. Sevier, 6th and a 7th. Okay, we're getting to the point where they're not offering much anyways. So, all right, I think that's going to be our initial setup. So we got the 2 big deals. We added Tuck as a power forward for Crosby, and then Josh Hosang just goofing off. I wanted to look at free agents and see if there's anyone out in the pool worth taking. I don't think so, since these are close to opening day rosters. The free agent pool's... Now, I'm not going to bother with Buff. He's not really supposed to be. He's really supposed to be retired anyway, so let's just, kind of respect that and not pick him up. Sorting by possible potential. I mean, Brendan Perlini, he might be worth giving a 2-way deal to. I mean, he's got some skills. Certainly beef up the minors. The Pens have a lot of kind of scrubby guys in the minors. A couple young defensemen here. Jeremy, I don't know if he's Roy or Waugh, a la Patrick Waugh, but 23 and an OFD, 87 speed. That's not bad. Madison Bowie, 89 speed, 2-way defender, 6'2". He's got nice size. I might want to bring in a couple of these guys just to have extra bodies. Is there anyone we're missing out on? I mean, Yannick Weber is someone the Pens sign in real life. I've always liked Grabner because he's fast. I don't know if I want to look at Grabner maybe. I mean, there's a couple guys I might be interested in bringing in for minor league depth. Goalies, nobody's really knocking down the door. I mean, Penn's goalie depth isn't great, but at the same time, I don't know that I really need to start shuffling that deck. I think I wanted to look at Perlini and 2 young defensemen at the very least. And based on the preseason and how the lines click and how the scouting reports come back, there's a chance I might want to bring Grabner in because I've always liked... Let me just double check what his speed is. I mean, he's usually had 90 plus speed. If he still has 90 plus speed, he's usually one of the fastest people in the game. Who's not also a star. I mean, obviously Connor McDavid's got a fast speed. Yeah, he's 92 speed and he's a sniper. I mean, there's a chance I might want to bring Grabner in. So, by 47 out of 50 contracts, if I wanted to bring in all 4 of those guys, Bowie, Roy, Grabner, and Perlini, I'd have to make a trade. So, let me go back. Most of those guys, I was looking at trades earlier, but let me take another look at that. Because I seem to recall Evan Rodriguez at least might get me something. You see, a 4th and a 7th, given that I only have a 2, a 5, and a bunch of 7s, that would then help also replenish my draft a little bit. I mean, I still got a lot of 7s. I mean, I got 2. That would give me 21 different teams, and they're all coming back in that same area of a 4 and a 7 or something like it. So really, if I want to do that's, my minor leagues got toasted by Jim Rutherford. And now that I got these extra bodies from these deals, Rodriguez, I'm not sure he's got anywhere to play. So, really the question is, what 4 and 7 do I think is going to be the best choice? Vancouver, maybe? Caps are a 5 and a 6. Boston tends to be fairly competitive for the playoffs. The 4 is next year. Carolina's got a 4 and a 7. 5 and a 7 for Colorado. I think Carolina's leading at the moment. Dallas just won the cup. It's hard to. They're probably going back to the playoffs. Montreal's kind of in a rebuild, but on the other hand, they did get Carey Price. They still have Carey Price, which, you get a ride a hot gold. You know what? I'm going to take Montreal. I'm going to send Rodriguez to Montreal. That replenishes my draft a little bit. It clears a spot. And then I'm going to put some contract offers out for those 4 guys I mentioned. Of course, Grabner wants a one-way deal, but I got room under the cap. Let's see what the other guys want first, because he's kind of the least important of them. If the others want two-way deals, so Perley needs a two-way contract. Shore up the minors. Roy, two-way deal, and Bowie, two-way deal. Yeah, let's go grab Grabner. What the heck? And actually, let me advance to the 17th and see who signs, but I will probably stop there and not start any of the preseason games until the first real episode. Okay, none of those guys signed, and it's the first preseason game, so I'm going to leave that as a cliffhanger for next time. So we've got outstanding contract offers to four minor guys. None of them are major parts. And that is where we will pick it up next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.